Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Victoria Ayadele Pash. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. For a new subscriber, you know I love you, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for always coming back. Alright, so today I'm here to tell you a few things that I think that you need to take note of when moving to the US. Yes, especially if you're coming here to school, or this is your first time coming to the US, or maybe you're coming here to stay, whatever it is. When you're moving to the United States, there are a few things that are considered common sense that honestly, if you're coming from Africa, especially if you're coming from Nigeria, okay, we don't consider it common sense, okay? But when you come here, some of it might be like a culture shock, right? Others might just be things that normal people are supposed to do, but we just don't do them where we come from, okay? So anyways, before I get into that, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please make sure you do so. If you're yet to like this video, please like it. I promise you will like the content, so like the video now, okay? Please remember to share this video. You never can tell who this can help, and yeah, I love to read your comments, so leave a feedback, okay? So anyway, so I woke up the other day in the middle of the night. I was just thinking of something, I was just thinking of why are things so different here? Like, what are some of the culture shock that I have experienced since I moved here? And I decided to start to write them, and by the time I was done writing, guys, I can't even count. I don't know how many I eventually wrote. I ended up writing so much. Like, some of the things that there are also things that I some of them are things we practice, but there are things that we consider extraordinary when people do them in Nigeria. But when I got here, I realized that these are things that ordinary people do, right? And also some of the things are things that where I come from, it's not really acceptable, it's frowned upon, but it's very acceptable here. It's like the norm here and all of that. So I'll try to keep this video short, okay? Yeah, so let us get into it. The first thing that I have here is always leave the door open for the next person. Yes, that is like a rule here. I think this I learned when I came to the US the first time. I realized that me normally where I come from, where you enter a door, you slam the door behind you, don't care who's coming behind you, okay? But I realized that when you enter into a building here, you always look back to see if there's someone coming after you, and you leave the door open no matter how much in a hurry you are in. And it can be very annoying sometimes because people here don't really have the sense of urgency that we have, like maybe when you are running late and Danfo is about to leave you and you're trying to run to catch up with the Danfo, or maybe you are late for work because of traffic. You don't really have time, okay? But here, so when you're leaving the door open for a person, they are not really rushing or running to come because they expect you to leave the door open, and it's considered rude when you enter into a building and you don't leave the door open for the next person. So that's definitely something. So for me, it was a bit strange for me because I remember I entered into a building, I didn't, and the guy came in and he was looking at me very weird. I'm like, wait till I do. But then I realized that every building, even in the subway, okay, that's the train station, when they open the gates, they always leave it open for the next person. You always leave the door open for the next person, okay? When where I come from, when a man opens the doors for a woman, we consider it something of pride, but here it's actually just common sense, okay? All right, the next thing that I have here is always look people in the eye when you talk to them. Yes, where I come from, that is considered very rude, when especially if an adult is talking to you and you're looking at them directly in the eye. It's like, who do you think I'm talking? You are looking at me. Am I your mate? Yes, those are things. Because I remember when I was young, I was that person. When you're talking to me, I'm looking at you, and my mom always corrected me that don't look at the adult in the eye. It's considered disrespectful when you look at an adult straight in the eye when they're talking to you. So always look down, right, as a form of humility. Yeah, and then even the older you get to realize that you're even doing the same to your kids. But actually here, when you don't look at people in the eye when they're talking to you, they assume that you are lying. Or even when you are talking to them, right, they assume that you're lying or you're hiding something, or something is not, right. Yeah. So you always look people in the eye, especially when it comes to business and meetings and all. Always, they expect you to look them dead in the eye. Yes. And that's why Americans, they can look you die. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something you want to take. You want to take note of. Another thing that I have here is when you're walking, always walk on your right. Yes, where we come from, okay, we walk scatter. People are coming from here, the other is coming from here. You are here, you don't know where to go to, okay, because we don't walk with sense. I'm sorry to say, we just walk anyhow. When I was in New York, the first time I came, that was when, you know, that's one of the first thing that I learned quickly. People always walk on their rights, okay, so that especially in a two-way, you know, I mean, for pedestrian there's no one way, so someone is most likely coming, you know, so when someone is coming, you always move to your right, and the person coming always walks on the right, so always walk on your right. So in case you find yourself in a situation where you're here and people are like, you know, looking at you like, what's wrong with you, don't you know where you're going, it's because you're not walking on your right. If you are climbing a staircase, an escalator, you are always on your right. If you're on the subway, you are always on your right, especially in New York where it's, you know, it's busy, people are always walking, always walk on your right, or else people will push you, you'll get tripped and all of that. Okay, so that's one thing I also had to learn. I also learned that handshake is a big deal here, and the way you shake usually determines, especially in the business side, it determines how you're viewed. So if you have a weak handshake, like someone shakes you and you don't, you know, is weak, they don't regard you highly. But especially if you're going for a meeting, you have to like have a firm shake, right? When they shake, squeeze a little bit, don't go and break somebody's hand, squeeze a little bit, like, you know, firm shake is always like, yeah, is always appreciated here. Okay, the other thing that I have here is, I think I said this, okay, I think this is common, you know, when you're coming here, people always tell you there are a lot of things that we consider, you know, morally wrong where we come from, but here it's not. PDA is a, you know, is a normal thing. You see people kissing themselves, you know, doing stuff outside. It's a normal thing for them, okay? So yeah, so what was I even going to say? Yeah, and a lot of things, like people have different genders, you know, it's not something that we are used to where we come from. You see a man who identifies as a someone who biologically is a man who identifies gender-wise as a woman, you have to consider them the same way. So you need to learn how to respect people's gender, right? So yeah, that's it. That one, I've seen a lot of Africans get into trouble, lose their job because of that, right? So you always respect people's gender when you're here, regardless of what your own beliefs or opinion about it is, right? Okay, another thing that I think I've said this in my last video, and let me reiterate in case, because I know someone who was into this recently. Never go to the ER unless it is a life and death situation. Unless you really think that, okay, I need to go to the emergency room, never go there, because the bill you are gonna get, my sister, oh, don't go to emergency room where headache is worrying you. Go to the urgent care. They have urgent care open. You can just go in without making an appointment, or you go to the doctor's office, you go to the primary care, your primary care doctor and provider and all of that. Then you can use your insurance and all of that. If you go to the ER, you will pay your bills, okay? Another thing is, you know, we are used to watching movies, any smart in dialing 911, especially when it comes to health issues, for ambulance and all of that. They are very expensive here. It's not like the UK where when you pay your insurance, it covers everything. Here, my sister, the bill you will collect, you should. Well, I know someone who went in just for, you know, I think she had a stomach ache, and she just went in, and what they give her is just something to ease the stomach ache, like ibuprofen or whatever, and, you know, just ran a few tests from her that normally would have been covered by insurance, and ended up sending her a bill of almost $3,000, right? Just, you know, something that literally lasted 10 minutes, right? And I know someone who, I heard of someone who, you know, hammer hit his hand, okay? He went there and they put spirit and what they call it, plaster. By the time they gave him his bill, I think it was about $12,000 or something they billed him. Yes, that's to tell you the medical sector is not regulated by the government, so hospitals are free to charge you anything they will, okay? That's why insurance is very key. If you don't have insurance is very key. They won't even let you enter if you don't have any insurance. At least you need to have a travel insurance, right? Okay, so the next thing I have here is learn to do small talks. Where I'm coming from in Nigeria, we don't really care about how your night was. We don't really care about, you know, maybe your pets, something, you know, your pets had their first jump, or we don't really care, okay? Everybody's face, they mind their business. We don't really care for small talks. But when I come here, I realize that, you know, small talks is actually how you build, you know, friendship, is how you build relationship. Even with your colleagues, you have to be willing to engage in small talks, okay? So they come, oh, how was your night? You know, when you ask somebody how was your night, expect to hear how their night was. Not, okay, it was fine. They will tell you. They'll tell you what happened to them, their dog, their children, you know, their husband and all of that during the night. How was your trip? They will tell you everything. They will even show you pictures. Oh yeah, those are things that I had to learn. It's not bad. It's just that where I'm coming from, you know, when they ask you, it's fine, because everybody believes that somebody is doing them. You don't want to share too much so that somebody will not come and, you know, spiritual attack and all of that. So we don't really share a lot, but here you have to be, you know, willing to make small talks. And it's something that I'm learning, even with the people I live with, like, how is the weather outside? You know, how was your day? Stuff like that. Those are not things that I know how to do personally. It's not something I'm brought up with doing. We are always taught to mind our business. We're always taught, when we, you know, those things are always seen as infringing someone's privacy where I come from. But I realize that over here you have to learn how to make small talks, or even if you don't make it, you have to learn how to listen and smile and say, wow, you don't mean it. Oh my God, wow, that's incredible. Oh yeah, you don't, oh yeah. Yeah, you have to learn it. Yeah, you have to learn that. Another thing that I learned here is you need to obey traffic laws. Yes, traffic laws are like very, very big. Pedestrians owns the road. It's not where we came from that you will cross zebra crossing and they will tell you, are you a zebra? Here, obey traffic laws, okay? But if they say no turn on red, no turn on red. If they say pedestrians are the owner of the road, okay, so, and you need to be mindful, because if anything goes wrong, you will most likely, especially if you're a motorist, you'll most likely be the one, you know, to blame for it. So you need to be very mindful of that. Another thing that I said is learn about credit scores before you get a credit card. Yes, don't just get a credit, because people here live by credit. I've said it, everything they do is credit, right? But you need to know how your credit card, you know, affects your credit score, and how that can, you know, affect you generally, your, you know, standard of living. Because you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to rent a house, you want to do anything, they always ask you for your credit score. And if you go and collect credit card and you go into to buy things, so credit card is money that you don't own, they are borrowing you money and you don't pay back, it affects your credit score, and then you're unable to, you know, do certain things that you're supposed to do. Even if you have the cash, they won't let you because you have a bad credit score. Okay, so hey, this one, my African people, I remember when I came to the US the last time, when I went back home, I kept doing this, and it was seen as being rude, right? The other thing I need to say, the other point I have is hi and hello is a complete greeting. Yes, when you come and they say hi, that is a greeting. Hello, that's a greeting. I remember it took me a long time when I just came to the US the first time. I will always say good morning, good afternoon, and they'll be like, why are you greeting you like good morning the first time? They will say yes, but you know, we now person pass 500 times, especially if you're Yoruba, they pass ekabo, ekule, ekujoko. You know, we have a lot of greetings, right? I was constantly greeting people, and they'll be like, why are you greeting me good morning? It's not really a big thing here. When a person says, so me, I will say hi, good morning. Like, why are you saying hi and good morning? Hi is a complete greeting. Hello is a complete greeting. So then I started to learn, and then I went back home, and then I want to greet people. Even my age mates, I say hi, hello. They would send me good morning, by the way. Yeah. So yeah, when you get to the Western world, that's one of the things you realize, that hi and hello is a complete greeting. Okay. All right. So the next thing I have here is, hey, when you come to the US, I don't want to say this, but I'll say it later. Yeah, people always, where I come from, okay, we have this thing what we call American accent. Yes, it's the way Americans always assume that all black people speak the same way. That's the way we also assume that all Americans speak the same way. Actually, there are different American accents here. Yes, so you see someone from New Jersey speaking differently. You see someone from Texas speaking a whole different. You see someone from, you know, from Florida having a different accent. Yes, white people also have accents. It's not just Africans, right? So all this, you know, prejudice that we have, like, you see someone coming with American accent, they'll be like, where is this accent from? Sometimes it's because of where they live. Okay, all Americans don't speak the same way, right? They have different accents. So that's probably something you want to know. Get used to being the only black person in the room. I think I've said this over and again. I remember recently I was invited to a meeting in my school, and it depends on where you're living also, right? And I realized that in the entire meeting I was the only black person, you know, in a meeting of over like 60 people. I was the only black person there, right? I'm not talking about African, black. Yes. because I live in a predominantly white place community. And when I was in New York also, in as much as New York is like interracial and all of that, there are times that I've found myself being the only black person in the room. It's just like when you're in Africa and a white person comes, the person will also feel weird because you'll be the only white person in the room. And when you are the only black person, whenever they make any reference to anything that has to do with black, everybody's looking at you because they assume you should know. Just like if a white person is in Nigeria and they make reference to anything white, people always look at the white. Yeah, so that's just the thing, right? So yeah.